So I just got done watching the X-Men animated series just in time for X-Men 97, so let's dive right into it here. Now, if you are new to the channel and you do like this type of video, do consider hitting that subscribe button. I've done a binge watching series for all the Arrowverse videos, so I'll post that somewhere around here. You can check that out. There are plans for another binge watching show, like I've got plenty of ideas in my head, so you'll be seeing that. So if you do like these types of videos, do consider hitting that subscribe button because we have plenty coming our way here. But in terms of the X-Men animated series, as we're building up with X-Men 97 coming out this week, I'm so pumped about that because I remember growing up watching this show, waking up in the morning, checking X-Men out, and it's what got me into like the X-Men. I absolutely adore this show, and so being able to just rewatch it, binge watching this show, it was such a blast. And that theme song, so iconic. I remember just having an absolute blast when hearing that theme song when you had the appearance of Charles Xavier in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. So just some great nostalgia in there. So when it comes to the show itself, it's kind of like a rerun of each season and what happens and my thoughts and opinions of it. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts about the show? Have you seen it? Are you excited for X-Men 97? Let me know down in the comment section below because timestamps of each season will be in the description down below. To be honest, right now, season 3, my favorite season of the whole 5 series. But let's get started with season 1, because with season 1, right off the bat, you get introductions to Jubilee, the character. You get introduced to the X-Men like Charles Xavier, Scott Summers, Jean Grey, Storm, Wolverine, Beast, like all the X-Men characters in there as we kick off right off with basically the Sentinels. You get Jubilee being captured, with the X-Men getting involved. You get Beast end up getting captured and being forced to be in prison, and he spends like a lot of the series in that, but obviously him being the character that he is not wanting to break free or do anything like that. You also get introduced to Morph as a character because he is part of the X-Men, but then you think that he gets killed off because of the Sentinels and stuff like that, only to find out what happens later on in the show. And so there's just some great way to kick off the show, like a great way to introduce all these characters in there. Like if you've never seen the X-Men before, this is a fantastic way to start things off. And so then as like the series is progressing, you get introduced to Sabretooth, for example, and like I really love these elements where you've got Wolverine who's in Canada and you get Sabretooth, and just that element between the two of them, the dynamic that was spread out throughout the whole show, I think just works so well. I love me in the episodes when you've got Wolverine and Sabretooth, especially when they're fighting one another. Absolutely fantastic. You have episodes where you're getting introduced to the Morlocks, which honestly a fantastic episode because of like how they are able to kidnap Cyclops and Jean, with then Storm getting involved and then Storm having a fight with the leader for her to become the leader of the Morlocks, which honestly plays a part later on in the show as well. So just some fantastic elements in the first season, in the first episode. And for me, one of my favorite aspects in season 1 is like the story arc with like the mutants getting captured in Genosha. I love that elements in there when you've got the characters who are being forced to work as slaves in there, and just the way that goes about how they're able to escape all of that, I think just works really well. It's the way the dynamic works, the way the team works so well together, that starts off in the first season. And then you've got like standalone episodes where you get introduced to like all these characters that are going to get spread out throughout the whole series. So of course you've got Apocalypse in there with like the 4 horsemen, where you get Archangel and his story arc. He's able to like break free and then he's able to escape. You're getting introduced to Juggernaut as a character, which I think works so well, a much better version than what we got in live action, I would have to say. And then you've got the animated version of the Days of Future Past. You've got Bishop going back from the past to the present day because somebody attempts to assassinate Senator Kelly, which we come to find out is actually going to be Gambit, but we come to find out that it's actually Mystique in Gambit's form. But the X-Men are able to then rescue Senator Kelly, and Beast is able to be released from jail while Magneto is actually getting kidnapped from Masterhold. So there's just some great elements and just some excellent execution in terms of the episode that I just really enjoyed with season 1. And then of course with the ending of season 1, you get the build up towards Mr. Sinister, who's actually watching Scott and Jean Grey. And I just honestly, season 1, the introduction, the first episode, the first season of the X-Men animated series as a brand new character, like as a brand new character for me growing up, I just absolutely enjoyed it. There's so much elements in there, and some characters, like for example Rogue, Gambit, Mystique, Storm, Wolverine, especially Cyclops, like all these characters that you're introduced to, you're so invested with them and you're so fascinated and you love these characters that Season 1, a fantastic start to the X-Men, because as we're diving into Season 2 now, so with Season 2 starts with Mr. Sinister mind-controlling Morph, who is actually turning into like a priest. So we come to find out that Morph is still alive. He turns into a priest who pretends to marry Jean and Scott. And we come to find out that Mr. Sinister's plan is to use Jean to mind-control everybody to his will. We also get to see Xavier going off with Magneto, like they get tricked and end up being in the Savage Land. So for most of Season 2, you have Charles, Xavier and Magneto working together in the Savage Land, with Charles even being able to walk. So most of the time he's spent away from the X-Men. And what I loved with Season 2 is that you get a lot of backstory with other characters. So you get the backstory of Gambit, which honestly a fantastic episode. The backstory with Rogue, because we come to find out that she's not able to touch anybody. We come to find out that she was like pushed away by her parents because her being a mutant. Some great story episodes with Storm's backstory, and again like Wolverine, as I mentioned, Wolverine's backstory. So some amazing standalone episodes that just work well with the story and with the investment that you have with these characters that I just absolutely adore. And not only do you have that balance of like these characters, you get again the presence of like the future characters, so like Cable and Bishop coming back from the future, because you've got like this 2-episode story arc when you've got this mutant plague who's actually destroying the future. So then Bishop comes back, Cable comes back, so they're trying to stop this, and you get the introduction to these mutant haters called Friends of Humanity getting involved. So they're introduced because of how Senator Kelly from the previous season is being saved by the X-Men, being saved by mutants. He's more on board with the mutants, and that causes these people, this group, to come up. And so there's just some great elements with that. We come to find out that Apocalypse is the one behind the whole mutant plague. They use Wolverine's healing power to actually work out a cure for this plague. So these episodes, when you've got like the future coming into the present, I really enjoy these episodes too, because you get Bishop in there, you've got Cable in there. So these characters, if you've seen them in live action, you may not be a fan of like their writing. Certain characters in the show, when they're presented in live action, aren't as great as how they are presented in this show. This show, the writing is just done so excellently with each of these characters and with each of these episodes. And then again, like not only do you have like these 2-episode, 3-episode story arcs, you get these standalone episodes, and some of the standalone episodes like Beauty and the Beast, with like the Beast working on trying to cure this patient because she's blind, only to be outcasted because he's a mutant, and having the girl get kidnapped. I just love that episode because it just works so well and really presents Beast as a great character. You get some wacky episodes like the Mojo character, where the X-Men are like sent into like another dimension with this character being presented as like a TV executive. It just works really well. Like these episodes, you're not bored throughout it. You may not be as invested as the lore and like the story of like the X-Men and like what's happening in terms of like the mutants and all that kind of stuff. These may be just like random standalone episodes, but you enjoy them so much. For me as a kid and even as an adult, I really enjoyed these episodes. But then you're kicking off with the finale of Season 2, as we come to find out that Mr. Sinister has this device. He's in the Savage Land. Sauron work together. They're using this machine. Mr. Sinister is using his powers. He's forcing Charles to bring all the X-Men into the Savage Land where their powers don't work, and then just this battle sequences, the X-Men get captured, Wolverine's able to escape, and you've got Wolverine and one of the characters or one of the people in the Savage Land, Kazar, to work together. They end up convincing Morph to like turn against Mr. Sinister. They end up destroying the machine. The X-Men break free. They fight Mr. Sinister. He's obviously destroyed, but he's not actually killed off. So just these 2-episode arcs work really well. Like this show, each so far in the season, like Season 1, Season 2, like the finale episodes are really enjoyable, and they just work so well. Like just everything that ties into it, like for example with Charles being missing, how it's all linked to the end of the season, I absolutely enjoy and absolutely adore. So Season 2 wraps up really nicely as we bring on to Season 3, and like I mentioned, Season 3, my favorite season of the whole show, with the Phoenix Saga and like the story arc where that Jean goes through. So much better compared to like the live action Phoenix Saga that they did in the Fox movies. This just absolutely kills it with this episode and with the writing here, because you're kicking off with the introduction to Wolverine's old love interest Mariko, and how after Wolverine gets captured and turns into what he is right now, we come to find out that she's completely transforming herself. We come to find out that the spaceship has crash landed with like this alien parasite in there, so they're having to stop this alien, destroy this alien ship and this parasite. But this parasite is able to infiltrate Charles's mind, who starts seeing visions, who starts getting nightmares, and basically foresees the Phoenix Saga, which then is able for him to connect with this alien outer space who is in danger. So he's forcing the X-Men to go in the space shuttle to to go see what's going on, and that's when shit hits the fan. This alien called Eric the Red takes over this space shuttle. They're able to fight him off, only for them to be crashing. So Jean has to use her mind to take over the ship, try to control the ship to land it safely, and that's when the Phoenix emerges and latches onto Jean. And so then this whole saga you've got with Lilandra, which is the alien that Charles saw, she and her brother D'Ken are fighting basically over this gem, over this crystal, and so he's trying to find it, she knows where it is, and she needs X-Men's help because they find the crystal. He actually manages to get the crystal, he takes over, turns into like this really strong, powerful force. The X-Men and Lilandra are trying to fight it. That's when the Phoenix gets involved, and she uses her powers to stop D'Ken, but we come to find out that she has to basically keep the crystal safe, so she ends up going into the sun, where we think that that's the end of Jean Grey. And not only do you just have that speculation of whether Jean is alive or not, the aftermath, the next episode when you've got Scott and just him lashing out at the professor, going off on his own, again like a sort of like a standalone episode where it's like a focus on just one character. I absolutely love it. Like, this is what you want from the X-Men, this is what you want from these characters, and I really enjoy what the standalone episodes when you have the focus on one character. And also, like I said, more standalone episodes. So you've got like episodes such as like the Archangel, who was appearing in season 1. He is going out for revenge against Apocalypse. Some really great writing when you have like the way to stop Apocalypse with like taking down his ship, because the ship is alive and the ship is having a relationship with Beast. I just think works really well, and some great writing in there. We get standalone episodes with like the Mojo returning, which again, like some wacky episodes, but episodes that just work really well. And episodes that go back into things that were written in previous seasons. So you've got Sauron, who is actually known by Carl, random name honestly, but he is actually being controlled by this stone called Garrock, and they're using Storm because they want Storm's power, but of course the X-Men are able to overcome this. X-Men are able to defeat Garrock, so a great little story arc there, a great little two-parter there, which then leads to like basically the finale, this 5-parter episode with Jean Grey with the Dark Phoenix. So of course Jean is alive, Jean does come back, she's getting taken over, like she gets recruited or gets tricked by this group called the Hellfire Club. They're using like these mind control things to kind of trick Jean, but then the X-Men get involved, they force Jean to turn on the X-Men, but that's where the Dark Phoenix arises, that's where the Dark Phoenix comes involved. So then you just get this great writing, this great story arc. The Lilandra and the Shi'ara have to get involved, they need to imprison and destroy Jean because of this whole Dark Phoenix. But then the X-Men try to battle in combat to try and save Jean, but they get beaten, and with all of this happening, all this fight sequence, like some great episodes. One of my favorite, like I said, seasons with this whole Phoenix saga. The way they're finally able to overcome this, way Jean's able to finally escape it, is with the Dark Phoenix seeing what's going on there and then basically going and traveling into the sun to separate her from Jean, and then the X-Men using some of their life forces to help Jean to recover. It's just a really fantastic way from going from the start of season 3 all the way to the end of season 3. I just, again, one I always go back to, one I remember as a kid loving this story arc, and now as an adult rewatching it, really loving this story arc. So this is what the Phoenix, like if you've seen the live action one and you weren't a fan of that and you haven't seen the X-Men series, check out season 3 because that's done right, that's done justice for me. So a great season, and then it caps off with Scott finding out who his real father is, who was part of the whole space shuttle hijack thing. That was a really nice way to cap off the season, along with like an alien taking over, like with this fish ship, and Wolverine using his healing powers to overcome the spores, and Charles using his mind to basically set the fish ship free, which one of the weirdest episodes, but again a really enjoyable episode because we kick off with season 4 now, and season 4 a really strong episode, like some really strong episodes. Like it kicks things off with Juggernaut, whose powers has been taken away because some other guy finds like this power that he's able to use, and so the X-Men try to stop this, try to save it, which allows Juggernaut to get his powers back. We also learn his backstory as well, so like a lot of characters do get a lot of backstory, do get a lot of time to shine, because then we lead on to the asteroid, like Magneto's asteroid episode arc, which really paints Magneto in some brilliant light, because he's decided that he wants to take these mutants to this asteroid to live off-world rather than the Earth, because of like how humans and mutants just can't get along. And so you've got this character, Fabian Cortez, who actually turns on Magneto and makes it look like the X-Men are the ones that attack him, only to find out that one of his co-workers, I guess you can call them, Amelia, who's actually one of Charles Xavier's like love interest in the past. We get some backstory with that. She finds out the footage, she sees the footage, and she exposes Fabian Cortez. And while he's trying to launch his missiles at Earth, you've got Magneto and Charles working together to stop this. Fabian Cortez, you think that he's died, but he's actually being rescued by Apocalypse for like a later episode in the series. So this, I really enjoyed this two-parter, like this whole aspect with Magneto trying to recruit these mutants, living off-world, and just shit going down. Absolutely phenomenal writing with this. Again, a fantastic 2-episode arc. And so then you get more standalone episodes, you get more of his redemption arc, because he is now part of the X-Men. He finds these Sentinels that really give him like PTSD. He is able to overcome that. He feels like he's not ready to join the X-Men just yet. You've got also standalone episodes with like Charles and the Shadow King. You get some backstory when it comes to that, and how Charles, because of this whole event, is able to form the X-Men. And Scott, sort of in this Western setting, like this episode, we get a little bit of like more backstory with Scott, who's in like this town by himself. So another decent standalone episode as well, I would have to say. And then once again, you get this future time traveling aspect where you've got this assassin who has gone back to kill Charles Xavier, causing Wolverine and Storm to be in this alternate reality where they're actually married. They're a thing now. Bishop's going back in time to recruit the two of them to stop Charles's assassination. They're able to fail the first time, but then able to stop it the second time around. So this 2-episode arc is just, it's really unique, because you see a different side of Wolverine, different side of Storm, them as a couple, which honestly I never thought would ever be a thing, and some great elements in there when it comes to the whole time aspect, stopping Professor X being killed. So something that I just really enjoyed, like these time traveling aspects, these time traveling episodes where you got Bishop coming back from the future back into the past. They're really enjoyable, I have to say. And what's really great is that like you get these 2 episodes arcs and then another 2 episodes arc, like 2 episode arcs back to back, because with this 2 episode arc you've got the focus of Moira, who was introduced in the very first season, and she is Charles's old love interest, but we find out that she has actually had a son who is not Charles's son, of course, but a different person. And so he's actually been locked up away because of his mutant powers. We come to find out that he just wants to see his father and like get to know his father, who's actually trying to run for, I think it was like Senate or president of like this town or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he was running for, but this 2-episode arc I just feel like worked really well and was just enjoyable, because you even get like this little drop of when the X-Men are trying to stop this character with Kevin, who's turned into a mutant. Wolverine gets this weird shit happening to him because of the powers, and that kind of affects him afterwards. So like there's some impact with what happens in episodes that happens in like later seasons. So in later episodes, which I just really enjoyed. So they're able to stop this kid, and you've got this great 2-episode arc when it comes to that one. And then you've got these standalone episodes with like Mystique, and you've got this like Nightcrawler who is getting introduced. So you've got like this family reunion in terms of that one. You get to find out some backstory about Mystique, backstory about Nightcrawler, backstory about Rogue. So that elements are being involved in there, along with another episode where you've got the introduction of Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch, with the High Evolutionary and Magneto being involved. So like that element of that, with them working together, you get the whole aspect of Magneto finding out that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, our family, is their kid, and they're able to defeat High Evolutionary. So that is like one of my favorite episodes too. It's just seeing that elements in there. And then the whole aspect of the 4-parter Apocalypse time travel aspect, which a really strong way to end off season 4, with Apocalypse, who is able to steal Cable's time travel device. He actually recruits all the villains because they're going to be capturing all these psychics. So they interrupt Jean and Scott's wedding. Jean gets captured. They try to kidnap Charles, but they were unsuccessful with that. But then Cable, who gets sent back from, he steals another like time travel ship. He comes back from the future to the present. The X-Men work together. They actually go to like ancient Egypt because they're going to go try and destroy the very first area, the first place that Apocalypse resurrected, to try and stop him. But we come to find out that that's actually a trap set by Apocalypse to able to kidnap Charles Xavier. But then Magneto and Mystique, who again was recruited by Apocalypse, do rebel. This causes out a war. All these psychics are being used by their powers, and people are getting like erased from time. Bishop, who was kicked out of the time stream by Apocalypse, he actually sees this. He starts shooting the psychics out of like the whole circle thing that they're in to reverse everybody getting erased. Wolverine, Magneto, they're all able to like work together to defeat Apocalypse. And you think again that's the end of Apocalypse, but that's the end of season 4, which I believe, by doing the research, this was actually supposed to be the last season of the X-Men animated series until they renewed it for season 5. And with season 5, I'll be honest, it is slightly weaker than the last 4 seasons, especially because in the middle of the season you do get a change in the animation style, which I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of like the latter animation compared to like the current one that we are watching right now in terms of the X-Men animated series, not X-Men 97. So wasn't a huge fan, because even in terms of like the story, it was just a lot of like standalone backstory episodes that you weren't really invested too much into. Like the first couple of episodes you get honestly are enjoyable, because you get like this Phylax alien invasion thing, like this computer virus that takes over a lot of most of the planet, including the X-Men, but Beast is actually able to escape. He gets introduced to like the prince who actually fled Earth because of what's happening here. His queen, we come to find out that it's actually gets captured, and so you've got Beast who has to work with Magneto, has to work with Mr. Sinister, has to work with Forge, all working together to try and stop this virus, this villain, and they're able to use this computer virus to end up stopping it. But it's just all these characters that you would not expect working together, like Magneto and Mr. Sinister with Beast and Forge as a team. Honestly, was not expecting that, but that is like a fun 2-episode part, especially because the dynamic with the Prince and Beast, I think, just works really well in terms of the comedic elements. So that honestly was an enjoyable episode. And then you get the next 2 episodes, which is like a story arc with Storm, which honestly, I feel like the writing for this character was just so out of place, because you've got Storm who gets kidnapped by this character called Archon, who convinces her to marry him. Like literally they meet 5 minutes and she's already accepting the marriage, and so she's actually going to be staying on this planet with Archon because her powers are able to control the weather. And while the other X-Men notice like what's going on behind the scenes, because he's actually using slaves, he's going to other planets to kidnap slaves and all that kind of stuff. So just like this 2-episode arc with all of this, only to then the X-Men and Storm to break free and just escape. I think that is definitely one of the weakest episodes in the series. I wasn't a huge fan of the writing for Storm, especially because her character just felt really completely different. So yeah, not a great strong 2 episodes, because then after that you get the standalone episodes that I mentioned. You got Beast and Jubilee, who actually get kidnapped by Cortez, who was in the asteroid, who was working with Apocalypse. He's actually trying to find Jubilee as the host of the body, because Apocalypse is needing to find a host for a body so that he's able to return. But Jubilee and Beast are able to escape, only for Apocalypse to take over Cortez's body instead. So Apocalypse has returned, and then Jubilee and Beast are able to escape. Another standalone episode is you've got Jubilee reading this fairy tale to a bunch of kids who's stuck inside this cave. So you get some great character development, some character growth with Jubilee, which I think should have been done more, because she really shines in this episode. She also shines in the previous season, which I forgot to mention about the whole Christmas episode, which I think like her character growth is starting to develop well, and I hope we get to see that more of that in X-Men 97. You get another standalone episode where you've got Captain America and Wolverine working back in World War II. So another great fantastic episode with the 2 of them working together, which I thought was really fun and enjoyable, but it's still one of the stronger episodes in season 5. And then you get like another standalone episode where you've got like this backstory, this flashback of Mr. Sinister and how he's able to get his powers. So a lot of characters do get their backstory, you get a lot of investment with the characters. But then of course that final episode where you've come to see like Charles is in this summit who's fighting for human rights. You got the leader Gyrick from the Friends of Humanity, who actually ends up using this device to expose Charles as being a mutant, but that really damages Charles. So Charles is basically on his deathbed. This causes mutants to uprise, led by Magneto to basically take on the humans. But then we come to find out that the only way to basically save Charles Xavier is by having Magneto use his powers to help Charles boost his powers, to contact Lilandra from the Shi'ara to basically take him away to help him heal him. And you just get this amazing final sequence or final couple of minutes in the episode where you've got Charles saying goodbye to everybody, and like just the lines, some amazing writing, some amazing dialogue with each person getting their own goodbye. A heartfelt scene, and one that honestly was just an amazing way to end the season with that, and especially with like the last line too that he delivers.
Proud of you all, my X-Men.
Honestly, getting goosebumps just remembering that scene. Like amazing sequence, amazing story there. And so then Lilandra does arrive, she ends up taking Charles away, and you just get that final shot of all the X-Men watching the ship go away. I just honestly absolutely loved it. I'm so glad they're bringing back the 97 X-Men 97, bringing back this show, because From what I understand is that it's 2 seasons. I think they're working on a 3rd season too, but I'm honestly not 100% sure. But I'm just so happy that we are going to be getting this show back, and based on the reviews I've seen so far, so many people are enjoying the first 3 episodes that they were able to check out, so I cannot wait. So keep an eye out. I'm definitely going to be having my thoughts about that when it does release, so subscribe so you're not missing out on that. But if you've seen the show, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you excited about this? Will you be checking it out? Let me know down below. That about wraps it up for this binge watching video. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Subscribe to the channel. This was YK Reviews. Peace.